Dear friends, welcome to another episode today in the military world. In this video we'll talk about one more Chinese territorial claim, this time about South Korea. Your company may be taking a serious risk without you knowing. A CNPJ, an account of Instagram or site, do not guarantee that the brand is your real, and there's only one way to protect the name from your business with millions of open companies every year, which prevents any business with a similar name without the due record. That Aeon is not a problem you with more than 7,000 on this problem with a problem that Aeon results with. That problem you with more than 7,000 Aeon reference to your problem with more than 7,000 Aeon reference to your problem with more than 7,000 Aeon referen in your problem with more than 7,000 Aeon reference. In your segment, not to know a matter of the NPJ or the webrection of the site doesn't guarantee that the name of the site is not guarantee that theater not guarantee that theater or rule of the site of the site that we now see is a matter of the NPI or the site rule doesn't guarantee know of the website record. Your brand, the links and the means of contact are here in the description. We're going to begin with a bit of history and geography. The area in question is located in the so-called provisory measures created in 2001 through a temporary agreement between China and South Korea that was seeking direct conflicts over the exclusive economic zones overlaid the two countries. According to the agreement, within this zone are allowed only permanent activities of the sea. Borders are being worked by installing flexible installments of this agreement, described officially as installations from support to the fishing. China is effectively changing the dynamics of the region. These facilities, some measuring over 50, measuring more than simply infrastructures, are signals of a Chinese expansion and consolidation in the territory, which is contested by several. Territory strategy in the United Statement of 9 and contested. To understand the Chinese Sea strategy in the Yellow Sea is essential to understand the essential strategy in the Pacific is essential to analyzing sea of the country that is contested by many countries. Of the controversial line of the country that Beijing is contested by several countries as controversial claim by the controversial land Mia. They also have interests in the region. Since 2013 China has been building artificial isles in the South China Sea by defying it with international landing clues and military facilities, with the Chinese justifying these structures as necessary for civilian purposes but in practical activities only to strengthen China's military presence in the region and defy free navigation by international right by the Great Land Point of Tension. Another great point of tension is to consider the island as part of their sovereign exercise and the United States on your side, stepping up your support. The Taipei feeding the possibility of a confrontation. The territorial disputes between China and South Korea are not recent. One of the most emblematic points is the dispute over the Iodine area, as it is called by the Chinese coastal zones, though it is located outside the exclusive economy zones of both the South Korea countries. Established a marine research center in the area, leading the great protest of peaking. Other points of tension: fishing that are constantly coasting attacks that have generated constantly attrites by constantly coastal attrites. That it involves not just questions territorial but also broad interests in economic and strategic interests. Evidence the complexity of the bilateral relationship. To understand the magnitude of the recent action of Beijing is important to observe the broadest context of China's entire region. Since April of 2024 to China has implemented similar structures in these areas, coinciding with a great internal political crisis in the great political crisis in the South Korea that many analysts believe to be exploited. China's sea with a long history of China disputes maritimes, including even Japan. These patterns indicate a deliberate strategy from Beijing to establish territorial precedents and gain advantage in future negotiations. The Yellow Sea occupies a critical position on the East Asia's deliberate strategy. Beyond being a strategic route for the maritime trade, is also a very rich area in natural resources, and for China to consolidate control over this region means increasing its political assertificance exercises in the region. That beyond the region, that beyond the regional enforcement, with that by not only concern the region, the neighboring countries, but also the allies. Western South Korea, with highlights for the United States that maintains a strong military presence in the country. A crucial aspect to consider is the domino effective. If China can solidify its presence in the Great Resistance, that can encourage similar movements in other disputed areas, challenging international order directly by affecting several other countries in the area. directly affecting Japan. For South Korea, that represents a complex test of diplomacy and strategy. The South Korean government, after the destitute of the disinituation, very much your ability to answer beyond of this is a concern that an aggressive reaction can lead to a military escalation, something that you wish to avoid at all costs. Also the question of international cooperation. The South Korea will need to work together with its allies, especially the United States, to create a unified front to contain the Chinese ambitions without compromising the regional stability. That dispute, the Proportional Sea dispute, is more than a bilateral conflict between China and South Korea, is a microcosm of a greater order to write the rules as one superpotence for South Korea and the ones your allies. The central question is how to answer this ascension without compromising peace and security in the region, with it illustrating well how territorial disputes can have ramifications that go far beyond the immediate borders of countries, and if it's still not inscribed into the canal yet.